What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? If you want to hear interviews from industry pros, get first looks, and have access to endless comic content, wake up. Please wake up. You're in a coma. Your mother misses you.
Shablam.
Are we up?
We're up.
Shablam. Okay. What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? This is Judah Rad. I'm here with Robo Strange. I'm here with Respawn, and we have a very special guest today. For the third time, we have Alex Paknadel on our show, and we're gonna get into some cool stuff. But we have he lives here now. Yeah. There's a little apartment. It's all set up. So we're gonna get into Redfork from TKO Studios, and then we're gonna talk about okay, this is embarrassing, but is it Giga or Giga?
Neither.
Say
neither.
It's Giga. It's Giga, but like there's been like a spectrum. But I am kind of enjoying the mispronunciation. You know what I mean? It's fun.
Okay, Gage, got it.
Here's the thing. I just want to throw this in really quick. You wrote, or the letterer wrote, a long A sound in the word Giga, and I am really upset about that because I had a bet, an internal bet. Like, I bet you it's Giga. Watch. It's gonna. Nope, I was wrong.
Okay. So.
Hey, we got people in the chat already. We got Michael, Aramis, Pete's in the game, Polly as well is here. Hello, guys. Welcome.
So,
hello.
For the people just showing up, we're about to ask Alex Paknadel about Redfork. It's from TKO Presents. It's got Nil Vendrell on the art. It's got Julia Brusco doing the colors, Ryan Ferrier as the letterer, and it's pretty cool. We've read it.
It's excellent.
You haven't, so we're gonna avoid spoilers, but we are gonna get some background here. So, Alex, Redfork #1, it definitely takes its time establishing the setting and characters. The supernatural direction that it appears to be headed in is very subtly introduced or implied so far, in a way that makes it much scarier. So what made you, my first question is, what made you, a British person, decide on West Virginia as the setting, and how did you even find out about Tudor's Biscuit World?
Well, okay. Can I address something first of all? Because you mentioned the pacing is quite interesting because I had quite a bit of luxury with this because it's coming out through TKO. They binge release all of their miniseries, right? So you can get it in two formats. You can either get it as a trade paperback or you can get it as 6 individual issues, and they're kind of in a box set, right? But what's cool about that is that because you don't have the kind of the monthly format, you can work with much more organic pacing. And the interesting thing I think about, I've had a lot of discussions with people about what works and what doesn't work with horror in comics, right? And so for instance, one thing that is very difficult to do in comics is a jump scare, right? The closest we have really in comics to a jump scare is a page turn. Mm-hmm. So just formally, and that's never going to be anywhere near as effective as like bussing in a movie. You're never going to get that kind of like, that sort of violin sting of the ring, you're never going to get that. So you have to, yeah, exactly. Like you have to rely on dread. Body horror, I think, to an extent is very effective in comics. But what was really cool about putting it out through TKO is because it's a binge release, I could do much more of a slow build because I didn't have to kind of hit that. Generally, if you're on what we affectionately refer to as the monthly grind, you need like 3 kind of holy shit moments like per issue, and I really didn't with this. I could basically just much more organically have a kind of more of a kind of roller coaster sort of structure where you get this like long build and then down we go. So that was cool to kind of work with that. In terms of why I wanted to set it in West Virginia, I think it was just I could equally I did my homework, don't get me wrong. I mean I did a lot of research, and I actually I worked with a local writer called James Maddox, who's a very talented guy. And he's a West Virginia native, and he he took care of like the Tudor's biscuits and what have you. And when if I was drifting a little too far south, he kind of pulled me right back up again. So that was kind of super effective.
How do you drift farther south than West Virginia? That's peak epitome south, at least in
Alabama.
Alabama.
It's such a, there are so many kind of regionally specific things, and it's because it's a sort of, I think as a Brit, generally, like the US is kind of broken down into very kind of specific kind of its accents, and those accents are very kind of monolithic.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get like we'll hear something and we'll hear like swamp, we'll hear something and we'll hear like Texas, but it doesn't really go beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we understand like the Valley accent like is very, very noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, New York tends to blur into Jersey like a little bit for us, but you can broadly kind of identify where that is. But I wanted it to kind of really kind of capture a lot of specific idioms. So like as I said, like I worked with a local writer, but it could equally have taken place, but it was a commercial decision, and it was also, I think, a creative decision in the sense that I wanted to stretch myself. But I could equally have set it in West Yorkshire, for instance, in the UK. And I mean, really, like I know, you have mining towns that are in sort of similar straits in Australia. It's a very kind of it's a very kind of global story. I think for all of its sort of regional specificity, it's about extractive industries that sort of visit these places and are, for a while there's a sort of this illusion of synergy where, the local population is gainfully employed and, covering very similar terrain to like There Will Be Blood, I guess. I mean, not that I'm comparing it specifically, but, that very much that kind of, I'm going to give you a school, I'm going to give you bread, I'm going to do all these things. I'm
going to drink your milkshake.
And eventually I'm going to drink your milkshake, right? But it's that kind of extractive logic of where, eventually these industries become so embedded in these communities that when those industries leave, the communities are just hollowed out, man. Yeah. And that leaves space for, I mean, certainly in my story, and I think on a much less kind of supernatural level, like, where we're, in our present context, it leaves space for like authentic monsters. And I guess that's really the kind of thrust of the book.
I know Robo's got a question, but real quick, the syntax that you use for the West Virginians is very, very authentic. And I guess that's a testament to the research that you did. Are you, as an individual, capable of emulating a West Virginian accent? And would you be willing to try for us?
Live.
No pressure.
Millions of viewers.
Like I enjoy my knees. Like I like them.
Where they are.
I get a lot of use out of them. Sometimes I'll go crazy and maybe like run a little bit. So yeah, if you don't, I think I'll keep.
Okay.
Judah, you need to do your best Valley Girl accent, I think, for asking that question.
Why Valley Girl?
Just because I feel like you could. There we go.
Like I'm totally going to like the mall later and totally.
There's not enough vocal fry in there, but that was a solid effort.
I'm totally gonna go get a new bag at the mall later.
There it is.
Moving on. So next question. All right. So
I'm so sorry, by the way. Like I know that would have been like super fun, but like yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I feel like you've practiced enough to know you don't want to do it live. You're like, okay, nope, can't do it. I'm done.
Dude, all day.
All day.
Like with a hairbrush, like in front of the mirror.
And keep playing it black. Keep playing it back. Like no, I can do better. Okay. So unfortunately, like we said, so the book's not even out. So we don't want to spoil too much. But so when you start reading, the very first page draws a direct comparison between drug addiction and our economic addiction to coal. The human cost of the industry consistently kind of looms as kind of like this running background on the book itself. Will that theme tie to the overall story arc as the series progresses? Is Is this what the book's about?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, partly, I guess, absolutely, and partly. I don't know whether that even makes sense, but I wanted to look at because it was an interesting one. Because when I was talking to people from that area, they're like, "All right, you're going to do like cryptid shit, right?"
Yeah.
And I was like, kinda, but like, and like, all right, you do Mothman, right? Like, you do Mothman. I went, no, I'm not. Like, this is something new. Like, I'm not new, but like something that fell out of my head. That I mean, I don't want to nail down an interpretation too neatly. And I want to leave a sort of degree of interpretive space for anyone who kind of picks it up. But I was certainly thinking along the lines of, when the monsters that fill vacuums, I guess.
Right.
I mean, there's a thing. I mean, it's in issue 3, but there's a line of dialogue that I'm really kind of proud of, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something like, one of a person says to another person, basically of the locals, they want you to crawl under your porch and die. And they want to do it because they want their peace and quiet. How they love their peace and quiet. But here's the thing about peace and quiet. Things like to grow in peace and quiet. Things like to chitter and ripen in peace and quiet. And they let their shadows grow too wide and too deep.
That's awesome.
And I mean, it's a bit more kind of elegant than that. I had one of the very rare moments where I sort of sit back and kind of go, yeah, that's not terrible. But that's certainly, it's certainly kind of how I feel about, what happened in Yorkshire, in my, the big mining county here, and along with Wales as well. There's this idea that they were just going to be kind of replaced with service industry jobs, and instead these places were just kind of hollowed out, and now they've become, and I won't say this kind of uniformly, but other resentments have kind of taken root, rightly, but they can often be kind of misdirected, and I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of very interested in it. I was interested in sort of exploring like supernatural monstrosity and sort of juxtaposing it with what I would consider to be like socioeconomic monstrosity. I know it sounds really pretentious, but you know what I mean? Like, in the sense that it's like, it's the most grounded thing I've ever done, right? Because I mean, the stuff that I normally do, the first thing everyone says is like, oh, world building, whatever, you've done, so, I set them in very kind of fantastical kind of settings. With this, I wanted it to be very, very grounded, but it's almost like I wanted like kitchen sink realism, but when the horror kind of comes, it's that much more. I was hoping anyway, it's that much more shocking because it's that much more grounded. You know what I mean? At least that's what I was aiming for anyway.
So one more follow-up question for that. You brought up mythology. So cryptids have been around. The latest Fallout game, Fallout 76, dove into that a lot. You said you were going to go a different direction. So without any spoilers, we'll just call the figure the Big Bad. Does the Big Bad of issue 1, is that from your imagination, or does that tie in directly to a mythology that you're using?
No, I mean, it all.
I mean, I don't even know if it's the Big Bad. It's just that's an assumption.
No, not at all. No. I mean, it's. I like to think that I made it up out of whole cloth, but obviously, the thing about mythology, right, is that it's archetypal. Sure. So, it will, of course, tie into any number of like. I mean, I would say the Big Bad in issue 1, the closest analog I can think of is like a sort of trickster figure, right? So it's like a Loki, the kind of prankster.
I was thinking Satan.
Well, Satan is a kind of pagan trickster figure, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean, it's Pan, it's Bacchus, it's, they're all the same guy, right? Like, right. It's the one who stirs the pot, the one who kind of stirs everything up, the chaos bringer, right? Yeah, that's the Big Bad in issue 1, certainly, yeah.
So thematically, you have the predatory nature of like large corporations, the demonization of addiction, the ensuing familial pain and guilt. Are you drawing a common thread between those concepts? Is that the idea?
I mean, I tried to. That's definitely the intention. How neat that is, like, I don't know. I mean, I tend to write in quite a I wouldn't say like a freewheeling way, but definitely, I'll kind of finish issue 6, and then generally in whatever I'm doing, I will kind of, like letterers despise me because I'll kind of go back through like the whole thing, and just because I want to say it's Maya Angelou because then it'll make me sound cleverer, but it was some. I think it was Maya Angelou who said, that it's in the act of writing that you figure out what you think about something, right? That there, and that's something that it's why I try and, I know people who kind of plot very, very tightly. I don't, because then I kind of lose the ability to surprise myself. But by the way, that's not in any way like a qualitative judgment. Some of my very, very favorite writers, absolutely have these kind of, reams of notebooks and everything, and it's all kind of meticulously plotted out. It's just, it's not, I can't work like that for some reason. I've
More intuitive.
What? I just need I need to kind of surprise myself to keep myself entertained, I think. You know what I mean? It's a long day, and I've got a 4-year-old screaming and running into walls in the interim. I need to I need to kind of keep myself engaged in that way.
That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think and I hope that there is a kind of through line and that there is connective tissue with all of it. But the thing that I really wanted to work in with this, because I think, like, sorry, I know I'm going kind of beyond brief question. But,
I'll go for it.
Like, generally, with my stuff, the thing that people always kind of comment on is the world building, right? And that's really flattering, and I would not, I don't take offense in the slightest. That's wonderful. But with this, I wanted to kind of, yeah, I'll say, like, I wanted it to be a bit of a flex in terms of character. You know what I mean? Like, because I knew that I didn't have that crutch of like, an alien invasion or something. I didn't have that crutch. It had to be about people, and human frailty. And that was the thing, I think, that with this, that I really kind of tried to, less a kind of thematic through line and just kind of trying my very, very best to kind of put real people on the page to the best of my ability.
Yep. By the way, to the chat, if you like feeling feelings, you should read it. If you don't, you shouldn't. I'm going to move us into, did we say Giga? Giga?
Giga.
Further out, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. So the first issue of Giga, it left me with more questions than answers, which is good because it makes me immediately want to read the next issue. I look forward to learning more about these Giga, where they come from, why they fought. I was also intrigued by the concept of humans as symbiotic organelles that you casually raised early in the issue. What should we be paying attention to most in this inaugural issue?
You mean this inaugural issue?
Oh, sexy.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got all my comps. So I'm showing them.
I love that
so
cover.
Good.
The spread came out so good, right?
Oh,
Wow.
That's so beautiful.
Lovely. I think in terms of what people should be paying attention to. I mean, I this is going to sound glib, but like I hope all of it. But I mean,
All of the bitches.
But people keep kind of asking me for like a cipher, right? And it's an interesting one because, and again, this is kind of colossally pretentious, but I will say this, right? Like one of the kind of pole stars for this, the thing that I kept coming back to again and again and again in terms of research, don't get me wrong, for of course, Gundam's in there, like of course Neon Genesis is in there, we're going to take good care of you, don't worry. But the thing that I was really kind of fixated on about this was the Protestant Reformation.
Interesting.
Okay. I can see that,
yeah,
sort of.
Because like you've basically got this, it's this a world in which you have these kind of dormant mechs, and they don't move, and people live inside them, and nobody really knows how that kind of happened. But you have this kind of order of priests, order of engineer priests called the Order of the Red Relay, and they have this this thing that's like half engineering manual, half Bible, called the Book of Assembly, and their remit is to basically interpret the will of the mechs, right? They're to interpret the will of the Giga. And they can't really be questioned, so they're kind of profoundly kind of authoritarian.
Sounds like a to serve man kind of thing, like the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man, where it's a cookbook. Are you familiar?
All right, it's like a sort of a Canticle for Leibovitz kind of deal, right? Like Ridley Walker, the document that survives the kind of the lapse is something really kind of unusual, right?
And it's been completely misinterpreted, but when you
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but that made me think of that.
No, I love that stuff though. I love that stuff because it always reminds me of, it's like Douglas Adams as well, and like R.A. Lafferty. It's always those kind of absurdist spins on, you know what I mean? Just this idea that like in the far future, like someone's going to be like worshipping like a crushed Coke can or something. I love that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is so I mean, yeah, thematically, I would say it's about where kind of, I guess, authority is derived from, right? And from where authority derives. I'm sure I butchered that. But again, I mean, I guess I wanted to. It was an interesting process with this one. I hope you don't mind me kind of riffing a little bit, but
go for it.
I did the thing that I kind of normally do, and also I did with kind of Turncoat, and I did it with Arcadia, which is to just sort of throw you into this world and sort of expect you to swim, because I do one thing that, like, all the kind of white noise guys, the writer studio that I'm in with Ram V, Dan Waters, and Ryan O'Sullivan, the one thing we all agree on is that, we want to kind of have a lot, not we want, but, we respect our readers, and we expect them to kind of come with us and just trust us. And generally that kind of pays dividends, I think. But I had this kind of moment with Giga where it was such a kind of weird, it was such a kind of catty corner kind of approach, I think, to this genre that, like, I'll admit it, man. I spoke to Adrian of Vault, and I was just saying, look, do we need like a Star Wars crawl at the start of this? Do we need a page of, in a world? And to his credit, man, he was just like, absolutely not. Like, if you do that, I kill you. But I just I shit the bed like in the last minute. Like, I was really worried about it. But like, thankfully, like, I was stopped. I
think, like, speaking as an audience member of the comic, I think we appreciate being thrown into stories rather than having it spoon-fed like that. Yeah. It's refreshing these days to get that kind of story.
And to kind of piggyback on that, as a comic reader, if I didn't like being shown, I'd read normal books. You know what I mean? I like right. the show me, don't tell me aspect of comic books. So definitely achieves that.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because, I mean, a pure aside, but like, I mean, I was talking to like a TV guy the other day, and he was saying about how like Netflix has kind of changed the game in terms of like, it's something that I was completely kind of oblivious to, but just how Netflix, their algorithm is so kind of finely tuned that they've actually changed the structure of pilots. I mean, I was completely unaware of this, but like every Netflix pilot is basically like, it's a movie. It's almost kind of, because they give you absolutely everything that you will need going forward in the first episode.
So House of Cards was developed because they saw, the people that watch Kevin Spacey movies also liked political drama. That's how it was pure data that got House of Cards started from Netflix.
Are you shitting me?
For real. That's how the world works these days. It's so bizarre.
Like, it was basically like it was like eHarmony.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. Yeah.
Like everything everything the corporate overlords feed us comes from a very detailed algorithm that we don't realize we're participating in.
I realize it, and I feel like I'm happier for it. Like, are you able to read my mind and show me what I want to see? Thank you. Now I don't have to get 500 channels of cable. Just feed me.
Right.
I am the consumer.
Just like we're just like rodents pressing a red button to get more cheese.
Yeah. Like
Alexa,
I see those.
What am I in the mood for right now?
Yeah, I see those experiments and I'm like, that's me. I'm like, boop. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, press it again. Cool. You know. Oh, I press this one and it electrocutes me. No, well, I won't hit that one again.
It's going to be so specific, isn't it? I'm riffing off like Chris Morris here, but it's like, Alexa, what am I in the mood for? Well, you have the jaded, listless sexual appetite of a retired general. So, like,
Jesus.
I'm gonna give you.
So, Golden Girls, you're getting Golden Girls.
Yeah. Murder, She Wrote.
There you go.
I know Robo's got a question for you, Alex, but my favorite thing about, I just want to say this to chat, having Alex on the show, is you will give the most eloquent, like, articulate answer, and then you'll be like, I'm sure I butchered that, or I'm sure, like, it's insane. It's so, like, nice to listen to answers that are so well formed, and then you're just like, but I'm sure that was terrible. It's always the best. It's so fun.
So, Alex,
guessing yourself in real time, it's
that's it.
Yeah, you just get to watch like my brain just slowly subside. It's fun.
It's relatable. It's completely relatable.
It is relatable.
So I don't know. I could be totally missing the mark, but when your sci-fi work, Redfork definitely not sci-fi. Giga is sci-fi. And when I look at your sci-fi work like that, and then Arcadia, it's very. It reminds me a lot of author I used to love, Michael Crichton, in the sense that like
that's high praise, man. Thank you.
It's meant that way. You create this situation where the world has changed, but humanity stays the same, and it's a story about humanity adapting to the changed world, with the focus being on humanity, even though there's tons of very obviously research and thought and considerations and world building that goes into this changed world. We're still very much focused on humanity. Is this a thing that you do very consciously, or is it just kind of how you naturally write?
I think I want to say something really kind of elevated that'll make me sound smarter than I am, but I think a lot of it is kind of it's fear of there's that whole thing, right? Like where, like I was let me roll it back. So a couple of years ago, I was at a Doctor Who convention just outside just in like a Marriott near LAX, right? And there were these people going around, and by the way, like they're all doing a splendid job, and I'm not criticizing them at all. It's scripted, right? It's not their fault. But they were kind of going around, and they were basically kind of flying for a Renaissance fair, right? And there's like a load of Brits, probably because it's a Doctor Who convention. We'd all been flown out to LA for this thing, and these guys are from a Renaissance fair, and they're basically trying to do like this kind of like weird like Thor Cod Shakespearean stuff with us, of like, good morrow, good Sarah, and we're just there's like me and Rob Williams just kind of going, what are you doing? Why this isn't? And like I said, don't get me wrong, like we weren't being assholes. We were perfectly pleasant, but it was just how kind of discomforting it is to be in whatever, like, I mean, what would be for me 32-degree heat, with someone kind of wearing like a sort of big sort of flowing kind of Maid Marian kind of dress and everything. And I guess there's always that thing of if you're going to set something, if you're going to radically change the world, that I just have this kind of morbid fear that if I don't try and employ as much kind of naturalism as possible, then it's going to kind of sound like that. You know, of like, but Captain, what of the broad-wing Vamidons? And that it's just going to pull you out of it, right? And I saw this thing got a few years ago where it was there was this academic conference that was going on in Sheffield, and like I didn't go or anything, but it was just kind of conceptually, it was kind of food for thought. But like the whole thing about this conference was it was positing the Wire as conceptual science fiction. That basically the Baltimore that they presented in the Wire isn't Baltimore. It's this weird kind of like accretion of all American cities, like in the same place, because it's actually it's a show about America, right? It's about power relations in America, and Baltimore is, you know, it's a character in the show, but it's very much kind of a prism through which you're supposed to view kind of the rest of America. And that kind of that just kind of tripped a switch, man, because I was just thinking, oh right, like it's science fiction, like The Wire is sci-fi.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
It's not a real city. Like it's not. He's not. You know, they're using Baltimore as a kind of cipher, if anything, to just make all these great. You know, to sort of do this kind of Greek tragedy, really. And so it just hit me that like, okay, so that's how you sell it, right? So like, if I strive for as much naturalism, particularly in dialogue, as possible, like I mean, you know, I really do like work on dialogue. If you strive for as much naturalism as possible, it just seems to me that you're removing like a barrier to entry. You know what I mean? And there are various schools of thought around this. You know, there are some people who say that, you know, the author should be, I mean, I'm sure I've mentioned this before on the show, but like, you know, that the author should very much be present. But I certainly, like, that's not my view. Like, I think it's my job to disappear, you know, because if I don't want to get in your way. You know, the story's there. I don't want to be there, you know.
Yep. You're like the window to the story.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay. I know, sorry, I said Robo before, but Robo's got a question. I just wanted to ask, when you said that you work on dialogue, do you have any advice for people when writing dialogue? Like, what are some good tips that you found work when you're doing that?
Okay, lock the fucking door. No, lock the fucking door. Stand in front of a mirror and be a crazy person.
Oh, hell yeah.
I do that anyway.
Yeah. Like, you know, you got to act it. You got to act it out. You got to say them out loud, and you got to look in a mirror, and you got to do the expressions. That's and right. It's the closest, I think, you know, I've had lots of discussions with people about this. I think the closest thing to writing is like improv acting. I think they are, you know, they're very, particularly when you're a script writer, right? They're very, very, very similar disciplines, because all you're doing is you're improvising, and then you're transcribing, right? Yep. So yeah, lock the door, and just be an idiot and try and do funny pieces and everything. And if it sounds right, it'll read right.
Did you hear that, Mom? I got permission.
Yeah, I love that answer, because sometimes I read stuff and I'm like I'll read something out loud. I'm like, this is not how people talk. Like sometimes I'll do that. Like I'll write, like even like for a script or something, or like for like when we're getting ready for a show, I'll write something, and then when it comes time to read it, I'm like, this read better in my head, but trying to say it out loud doesn't really work. So that's pretty awesome. That's awesome. All right, so moving on a little bit is so when you start getting towards the end, I'm figuring out how to formulate this without spoilers. You get to the end of the book, and it seems like we're gonna start touching on a lot of the similar themes that we saw in Arcadia. And I know last time you didn't like seeing, you said you didn't like the word personhood, and as far as us being able to define that. But when there's a character that it seems like we're going to explore that a little bit, is this gonna go the way it seems it's gonna go, or do you have a surprise plan for us?
I don't know. I don't know
buy
where
the books.
Going. I mean, yeah. Are you talking about like the robot companion?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Laurel.
Yeah. So the protagonist, Evan, he's basically he's illegally constructed like a robot companion. And there's a very good reason why he's done that, and we'll kind of get to that. And it's a very kind of emotional reason. She's more, it's not that there's no recognition of kind of intrinsic personhood. But she means something to him kind of beyond what she just sort of physically represents, sure. If you know what I mean. And you'll start seeing that kind of come together from sort of issue 2 onwards. I mean, I'm sure you'll kind of you'll sort of fill in the blanks.
Yeah. I really like what you did with consent, by the way. It was only one panel, and it really kind of jumped out at me with regard to Laurel, her autonomy and consent from a very and it wasn't even like a lot of times I see books and sci-fi that kind of draw this and go, they look like humans, so it's easy for the viewer to go, okay, well, of course, like with Data from Star Trek and stuff. But in this one, you have a very clear robot who's humanoid-ish, but still giving consent to, yes, you may look into my brain, or, and there's this level of respect between the two, which I thought was awesome. There's not a question there. I just wanted to say that out loud.
Oh, no, I would love to take credit for that. But that was actually that was a suggestion from a good friend of mine, Danny Law.
Sensitivity reader.
Yeah, but I mean, and they're a fantastic writer in their own right. Fantastic writer. Yeah, that worked.
I see what you did.
But they, because I've got I've got a black disabled protagonist, right? Like, I'm sure at some point in the series, like I'm sure I'm gonna get some stuff wrong, but it's something that I wanted to do, and it's something that is intrinsic to the plot. So I just wanted to make sure that I could do it as kind of just as kind of compellingly and naturalistically as possible. And so like Adrian and I kind of approached Danny, and they've got plenty of kind of work coming up on I think some DC work coming up and everything, but they were very kind and they made time in their schedule to kind of go through and like I mean in full disclosure, like there were a couple of points in the first draft where like I'd messed up. And they kind of they caught me. I mean, it's great to kind of have that. It's great to have that sort of support system, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, they were kind of generous with their time, and they just so that was one area as well. It was just this kind of issue of kind of because I think in the first draft, Laurel was the personality was still there, but there was this. It was a bit more kind of infantilized, I think, that there was much more of a sense of sort of, like Evan's duty of care over this character rather than, this is a companion, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, Danny kind of picked up on that straight away. And, I'm forever grateful because I think it's made it much more kind of textured and nuanced.
Awesome. Alex, can you hold up your copy of issue number 1 again? So, to our audience, definitely call your LCS. We got Alex Paknadel writing. We got Jean Lay doing the art. Roche doing the colors. And then Aditya Bidikar, I hope I got that name right, as the letterer. And also Danny Laurie as the sensitivity reader. So what we have is a very cool comic book. And we're definitely looking forward to reading the rest of it. And you all should absolutely check it out. What we're going to do now is we are going to move on to comic book news.
Just imagine, just close your eyes and imagine we had an awesome production team, and we had the scene change, and like these titles fly in. It's like, now it's time for news, and then we're back. Hey, welcome back. I hope you like our little transition there.
Get ready for the ride of your life at Live from the Apocalypse, the news.
Comic book news. All right, let's go.
All of your wildest dreams are all about to come true at once. Okay.
Every news channel has like a really intense orchestral theme, so I think we need one of those too.
dun 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 dun.
And
Nothing
if we ever have a
Nailed it.
guest they're not
Like
ready for,
sponsorship from
I'm sorry, go
it
ahead.
needs like really incongruous sponsorship as well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Brought
You
to
know,
you by
it's
Skinny
like-
Tea.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So first news item is White Knight presents Harley Quinn #1 just dropped. This is writer Katana Collins, artist Matteo Scalera, and colorist Dave Stewart. It's the
fucking good.
it's the Harley solo series set in the White Knight universe.
You know you
Sean
can't
Murphy's
interrupt
White
him
Knight
like
universe.
that.
But yeah, this is a cool comic book, and personally, I actually think that this White Knight version of Harley Quinn is one of the best versions of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I agree.
Second, in my opinion, second only to the Batman the Animated Series version of Harley Quinn. But I do like this one,
It's
Approved.
like she's
So-
in the room.
Approved. Sounds good.
and that cover's pretty cool.
What were
Reed,
you gonna,
you said you read it?
What were you gonna say, Reed? You,
Yeah.
you know you can't interrupt Judah when he's in the middle of a sentence. When it's like it's a rock, and he will not stop. Like I have to finish this goddamn sentence. No, just kidding. What were we gonna say?
Yeah.
Not even worth trying.
What's the question, sorry?
You said
What am I answering?
you're about to give an
You
opinion
read
on
this,
Harley
right?
Quinn.
So what do you think?
Oh, it's so okay. So the guy that does the art, Matteo Scalera, he did Black Science with Rick Remender, which is one of my favorite series of all time, and the art in that is fucking phenomenal. The art in this is just as good, and it's like different, you know. Like I like artists that can bring a unique flavor to each title that they work on, not just this. Like they have a signature style, but they change. Like this Batman one feels a lot more. Black Science is really like watercolors, and this one's really like solid grays, and it's really like muted colors, and it feels like it's in the Batman Gotham universe, but it's still like his talented drawing and character designs, and it's beautiful, and the story is really cool, and I loved it. It was really good.
Dope.
Worth checking out.
By the way,
Alex, are you a Batman guy?
In what sense?
Do you enjoy Batman? Are you a fan of a casual fan of Batman, or like do you have your own bat suit? On a scale of bat suit to I sort of like Batman, where would you fall?
Yeah, I mean I have a bat suit, but like it's the one with the nipples.
oh yeah,
Oh, right.
yeah. Wait,
How many
are there
nipples?
other bat suits? if it doesn't have nipples, does it
yeah,
even?
no, like, it's
missed
a
that.
fun one. Like I love Batman, but like I mean don't get me wrong, you know, like I mean I'm really enjoying James's run, you know, and he's been very kind to me, but I still kind of feel like I love all the kind of I'm still a kind of I'd say like I'm a sort of Batman peripherals guy, you know what I mean? Like I'm still just I'm like, you know. But I tell you what, like I've been on a weird kind of a weird retro binge recently, where I've been kind of picking up stuff I missed. So like I've been picking up like a load of kind of Denny O'Neil, like I picked up Venom, like I found a copy of that. Like I picked up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Gotham by Gaslight. Yeah, that exact one, man. It's fantastic. Yeah, I picked up like a recent, like they just did a deluxe edition of Gotham by Gaslight that's just beautiful, and like you can just see where Hellboy comes from, you know, like right there.
That's awesome.
But there's all this like weird esoteric stuff that I've been not weird esoteric stuff I've been picking up, but there's this omnibus of like Cape Crusader. You know, they've been doing the Cape Crusader kind of ones recently, and there's one recently that just came out that's got this Andrew Helfer Two-Face annual they did with Chris Sprouse from years ago, and it's like one of the best Batman stories I've ever read, and it's just like weirdly just like buried in this kind of weird compendium.
I would like to check that out.
Oh,
Sounds
dude, it's off the chain, man. But like, do you know what? Like, sorry, this has gone completely off piste, but I was talking to a buddy about this the other day, right? Like, you know all the kind of Batman Black and White that just came out, right? Like,
yes.
All the Batman Black and White, like it's effectively just like a Legends of the Dark Knight anthology, isn't it? It's just like we're just gonna take Legends of the Dark Knight and just like rip out the color, because like that, the hit rate on that book was insane. Like Ted McKeever, Mike McMahon, Mignola, like just these absolutely Brian Talbot, like that masks two parts of the where like Batman's like this homeless guy that like thinks
I
he's
love
Batman.
that.
It's
That
so
fooled
good.
me. That fooled me. I was like, maybe I've been wrong about Batman. Maybe he really is just. Yeah.
Just absolutely nuts, man. But like I've always thought, like, if it'll probably never happen, but look, if I ever got the call, like I would love to do just like a done in one, just a sort of beginning, that you could do like just a done one kind of Batman thing. Just, oh man, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Just to jump onto that, like I usually go for the indies. I'm not super into the big two as much, but I have like read more Batman than you'd think. Like I've read Hush and Court of Owls and Jeff Loeb's Long Halloween trilogy. But when I got into White Knight, I just want to say this for the chat. The concept is something that I've been dying to read for so long, because the boys and I talk about this all the time. I wonder about the impact on our like cultural psyche to see Batman as a hero, where his only separation from the cops, he's not really detective anymore. He's more just, he can punch harder and get away with it because he's a vigilante. And I'm like, is that really damaging for us? Because we're seeing like,
but he won't kill people, unlike the cops.
Yeah, except he leaves them for pretty much dead. Like if you look at the injuries that he leaves people with, you know what I mean? Like
more importantly,
the issue
though,
that I'm seeing is like the only thing that makes you better than the cops is that you can punch harder, and I'm like, that makes me really nervous.
But
people consuming that shit. But
who is your dog?
Concept,
who is your dog safer around? That's the question.
That's exactly right. That's all people care about.
Really seriously, like, I think it's an interesting point you raised, because I think it's something that's kind of coming up a lot now. And like, don't get me wrong, like I'm an unreconstructed superhero guy. Like I love that stuff. That's how I learned to read. But there is kind of something in the water, I think, at the moment, in the sense that, like, the Boys TV show, I think, has really kind of struck a chord with people, because the underneath it all, right? Like I think someone pointed out the other day that what that show is kind of asking us to consider is like what's happened to us culturally that we keep expecting to be saved.
Yeah.
And how much how much authority are we giving to the people that we expect to save us, right? And like I think, I mean, to kind of pull it out of the macro, but like I caught myself doing it, man. Like the Mueller report.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of, I had this narrative hardwired that like it was like Captain America was going to like show up and just like pull us out of this like nosedive, right? Mm-hmm. And like that's not how the world works, man.
Yeah.
You can't underestimate the power of cognitive dissonance.
This is it, but I grew up on these narratives, man, and I love them, but just kind of, don't get me wrong, it's not a question of I'm not implicating them. We need myths to survive, mm-hmm. right? Like it's the way we kind of navigate the world. But I think the boys did really interestingly is just kind of, it's asking you to count to 10, right? It's not asking you to kind of abandon that. It's not asking you to say, of course, there are heroic figures, but it's like, well, why do we so readily kind of, why are we all kind of waiting on the, on the lip of a kind of crumbling bridge expecting to be saved? And I think one person who's handling that really well at the moment is Chris Cantwell over in Iron Man. I don't know whether you guys are reading, but like that, his whole run at the moment, I don't know whether you caught it, but it's like he's doing all this stuff where like, Tony's kind of putting himself in these really kind of terrible situations, but he's got Patsy Walker, Hellcat, just going like, but basically kind of really, really digging into that kind of like, I mean, I find that whole kind of that sort of theme of like, what does it mean to be a hero? Like, I mean, I'd like that bores me to tears. But what I think Chris is doing that's really interesting is he's kind of digging into this kind of this marriage of like where the notion of like romantic self-sacrifice and toxic masculinity sex.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Why do we need it? It deconstructs us, not the heroes.
Yeah, totally. Like, the like dudes are just kind of, culturally, we're kind of raised to believe that there's something kind of inherently awesome about like running into gunfire or like, just a noble act of self-sacrifice. But like, right. I mean, if I'm right, I think that like Cantwell and Cafu's run on Iron Man is kind of deconstructing that and just going like, well, why is this guy just throwing himself into these situations,
So right. Judah recently finished Atlas Shrugged, and we decided we were going to do a video on like Randian comic characters.
Oh boy, yeah. Here we go.
I just
this
like
can of worms.
well, this is Tony Stark obviously kind of fits that model, but like we'll have to look at that series to try and incorporate that into because the discussion of those ideals is really fascinating, especially since I feel like we're in a time of great change. I don't know if it's just me being idealistic, but it feels like things are really shifting in terms of how we.
Collectivism is right around the corner, and Ayn Rand is probably going to roll in her grave when it happens, and that's okay. But yeah, so yeah, that's definitely interesting.
So real quick,
the great men are dying hard, though, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We do have Glynis and Maneater decided to show up, so I think we need to start over. So welcome to the show. We have no, I'm just kidding.
So the next news item I think is a good. It strikes me as a very cool thing. I'd be curious to hear if anyone doesn't think it is. To me, it's pretty cool. But Marvel just announced that it's slashing the turnaround between comic stores and Unlimited in half. So the way it's been is, you subscribe to Marvel Unlimited and you can read the comic book 6 months after it comes out. So the LCS can still sell it for however long, and then people who subscribe to the service can then read it digitally after 6 months. Now it's 3 months, and there's no cost change to the $70 a year subscription.
Wow.
The thing that strikes me about it is, while as a fan I'm happy because I can only afford so many comics in my pull box, but I pay for this service so I can read it basically as much Marvel as I want. It almost feels like an arms race between Marvel and DC, because this year DC, they changed their distributor, they changed their new comic book day to Tuesday. They've been double shipping, and they've been pissing off a lot. They've been pissing off a lot of other people in the industry, specifically LCS owners and other companies. Now Marvel is undercutting them with the store to Unlimited time. So question is, three-part question. Is this a arms race? Is this a good thing for comics? And is this a good thing for the consumer? So what do you guys think?
Is it an arms race? Clearly. Is it good for the comic books and the consumer? My guess is yes, because it goes back to what we were talking about with the whole evolve or die bit. And when you look at things like web comics and what the younger generation, because isn't that a lot of the conversation that we have? We talked to Fabian Nicieza, and that was a huge part of the conversation, I feel, about appealing to younger people. So if we can get comic books to the digital format quicker, I think that's a good thing in the long run. Is this good for LCSs? No. It's going to be very bad for LCSs, I think.
It's an interesting. I think it's a controversial subject, so I don't expect anyone to really dive on it too much. But I have this weird tug of war in my mind of, I like LCSs and I want to support LCSs and I want them to thrive, but I also don't know at what point does reconfiguring the industry to benefit LCSs drag down the rest of the industry? And that's a question I don't really know if I'm equipped to answer, but I don't know. It's definitely something I think about.
I think a lot of it, I don't know if it's a exact or if it's a perfect analogy, but sometimes I look at stuff like this like a forest fire. And forest fires, when they occur naturally and not because you forget to rake up the forest floor, but forest fires are actually good things, and so it refeeds and then new growth, right? And so and I hate to say this, and it's a good thing Luke doesn't watch us anyway, but I feel that when the evolution moves towards digital, then we will find a new version. There will be a forest fire. We'll lose our LCSs in the long run. But what we'll find is a digital version of the community that LCSs have built, which is why we go there in the first place. And then from the ashes of the forest fire will come a new, maybe they're LCSs again. Or, maybe they're more like cyber cafes, but they're comic book cyber cafes because everything's digital.
Glennis has said something I agree with, which is they're a space the way they work best is there a space for nerds to like have their Magic the Gathering games and Dungeons and Dragons like nights, and they've got to branch out from just selling comics. They've got to sell games. They've got to like host nights. You know, they've got to be like a community sort of pillar for nerds.
Which I think most of the bigger ones have done out here. If I go into a shop and see only comic books, I could almost guarantee that they're a very small shop. The bigger ones almost always do that. Yeah.
They have toys and statues and yep.
Yeah.
But also, I think. Do you mind if am I right jumping in?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, personally, like I mean, I really like it where where stores will embrace their kind of curatorial function. I mean, like, case in point, you know, there's a store in Lisbon called Kingpin that I went to. Like, I was just, you know, I was with my folks. I was in Portugal for the day. Went into this store, and it like, and I mean this by the way as a compliment, right? Like, it was laid out like a Foot Locker. You know what I mean? It was like there was a lot of kind of white space, but the owner, Mario, had basically just kind of drawn your attention to just like these incredible books. And, you know, it had like, like he clearly kind of knew his shit, man. He's sitting there with, you know, like the sort of Samney and, you know, Matsukeli kind of, you know, like the Born Again kind of, you know, artist's edition and stuff. Like, you know, it was kind of great stuff. You know, I walked out of there kind of several $100s later.
That's what happens.
But I think that's what happens when you don't kind of stack them high. And I know that there are people out there who have a lot of kind of affection for kind of the sort of stack 'em high stores, and you know, I mean, I do too. That's kind of what I grew up with. But I think it's gonna I think it's gonna be like anything else, right? I think it's gonna kind of bifurcate. I think the what's interesting about digital is I think it's brought back, and I'm not using this term pejoratively at all, but I think it's brought back some much needed disposability. Right.
I'm sorry. What does pejoratively mean?
Sorry, like negatively. Sorry, like.
Thank you. I'm too dumb.
My dad's been kind of going through Marvel Unlimited, right? Not all, but my dad's been going through Marvel Unlimited, but like chronologically because he's weird. But he pointed something out to me today. He said like, I read Marvel Comics #1. I was like, cool. He said, yeah, from like October 1939. I was like, all right. And he said, and I'm in the 60s now, and like I got up to Fantastic Four #1, right, from 1961. So 1939 to 1961. Wow. But check this out. Marvel Comics #1 in 1939, 10 cents. Fantastic Four #1, 1961, 22 years later, 10 cents. The page count went down. That's where basically we end up with, you know, eventually we end up with 22 pages, and they just kind of let inflation take over. So, you know, that whole time, that whole 22 years, they've been kind of, you know, they've been getting past inflation by reducing the page count, but to keep it as like basically like a paper round pocket money proposition.
Right.
And then after a while, I think probably like after the oil shock or whatever, like slowly, it became less and less of a pocket money proposition. And I think, you know, what we've got at the moment is we've got this relationship between stores and digital where, you know, it's one for one. Even like, you know, the marginal cost of digital goods, the cost of producing more than one is literally zero, right? But you've got the same kind of price. So they're kind of, they've got this kind of binge option on the back end, which kind of, I think, you know, caters to, you know, and if you're kind of prepared to sort of have that delay, it sort of takes care of it. But I think what that creates is a space or a space for stores to do what I think stores do best, which is to take care of prestige content, right? So like, you know, instead of, you know, I'm perfectly happy to put my hands up and say that I probably don't understand the economics of it, but I find something really appealing about the idea that you could have these stores that are just carrying like the best teams, the best artists, you know, the absolute kind of rock stars, and they give that kind of prominence, and that's like their niche. But meanwhile, you know, if you do want to pull 75 titles a week or whatever, that's for you on digital. I think, like, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think it's either or, and I think what it can maybe do, yeah, is like you can make the actual physical copy more of a kind of a prestige item. I don't know. I mean, we're talking shit, but something like that. I don't know.
And then that's
Yeah,
how
that's
the counterfeit comic industry, underground industry is born right there. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
it's interesting because I've heard I really don't know. I'm in the same boat. I don't fully understand the economics, but I've heard focus on the prestige, which I actually like that. I agree with that. But I've also heard people say, no, what we need to do is newsprint, 5-color palette, and make it 10 cents again. You know what I'm saying?
But newsprint. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I have heard. I don't know whether this is true. I think newsprint is like super expensive now.
Really?
It is, yeah.
Apparently,
is it more expensive than the glossy white?
I believe so. Yeah, like we're in this like because like
I think there's less places that do it now.
I think like I tried to get like some like reso printed stuff like Giga. I wanted to just as a kind of gimmick, like just to kind of hand out because I went to Comics Pro in Portland and I looked into kind of getting some copies of issue 1 kind of reso printed, with like the sort of that kind of 2-color process or whatever. And it was super expensive because it's I think it's I use the term advisor. I mean, I know it's about resources, but I think it's that kind of artisanal thing now. You know what I mean? I think newsprint become this artisanal medium.
Goods gourmet. I got
it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pete's in the game is in the chat right now, and he asked a question I'd actually like to know the answer to, and perhaps you can answer it. How much does a creator actually earn from a $3.99 digital comic book sold on Comixology?
I swear, like my hand to God, like I've never had a breakdown of that. I've received royalty checks, but I've never had it kind of itemized in that way. I don't know. I apologize. I imagine it's. I could be wrong. I think it's probably the same as physical because I think like the whole, it was the same. It was like the idea was that it was going to be kind of 1-to-1 because they didn't want to kind of tread on anybody's toes. It was very, the publishers, I think, all kind of agreed between themselves that digital and print, there would be no kind of functional difference because otherwise, one audience would get upset,
Makes sense. Cool. So that's the kind of discussion where I know so little. I don't think I'm going to be able to form a hard opinion on it until years later when history forms a hard opinion on it. So we're going to move on. This is kind of a fun news item. I don't know if they have Nickelodeon in the UK, but there's a new comic book store comedy in the works at Nickelodeon. It's called Warped, and it's set to take place in a comic store. Kevin Kopelau and Heath Seifert are the executive producers and showrunners, and they worked on All That. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. That was like this. It was really funny. It was a sketch show on Nickelodeon back in the day, kind of like Mad TV. And they're the creators of Cousins for Life. So this pair is also responsible for writing some of the episodes of Kenan and Kel.
Deep cut.
So I think this is a good one for old school Nickelodeon fans. And when I saw this news item, the reason I decided to include it is because it's very tangentially comic book related, but I picture kids watching the show and loving the show, and then something in their brain is like, maybe comic books are cool, and it's good for the industry as a whole. So definitely, it's kind of exciting.
I read the Rick and Morty comics, and I know like Dan Harmon's problematic and all the rest, but they were really funny, and I like funny comics, and more funny comics. I'm all for that. That sounds great.
I feel like that would be hard to do. Well, you tell me, Alex, as a writer, if you decided to pick up like a licensed work, do you think it would be difficult to say, like Rick and Morty? We'll just say I don't know if you watch it at all, but Rick and Morty have a very specific way to talk. The pacing, the style of jokes, the things that they say, and then they go, okay, person who's not Dan Harmon, write a comic book, and you have to like imagine what the original writers would have said. Is that hard?
I mean, I had a bit of it with Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
I did a year on Doctor Who with Simon
right.
Spurrier and Rob Williams. And honestly, and again, really just from the sort of early discussion, that was about like just doing impressions of like Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like a crazy person, just like in the bathroom mirror.
That's so fun.
And it was there was one in particular. I did a free comic book day one where I had to use 3 doctors. I think it was like Christopher Eccleston, Matt Smith, and Peter Capaldi.
Nice.
And I actually, I mean, I don't say this with like ego. Like I don't think I'm like king shit or anything. But like it did flow quite naturally. But I think like the Rick and Morty ones must be kind of quite weird to do because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, like Kyle Starks is a pretty good friend of mine, and I know he's done like a bunch of Rick and Morty stuff. But he's also in his own right, like just an intensely hilarious man, and a very very thoughtful man. But a very very funny man. But it must be kind of weird because Jeff Loveness is like a very prolific comic writer in his own right, and Jeff Loveness is one of the writers on the show. I mean, that must be quite odd, like literally one of the Rick and Morty writers like writes comics, but I think like the one comic that he doesn't write is Rick and Morty.
That's right.
His day job. But the stuff that Jeff Loveness writes, just for Boom, couldn't be more different, right? It's very kind of serious, he did that Judas book, but tonally just completely different. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think, given the amount of license, like, I mean, I'm really into what Marvel does with Alien, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Ooh, that's such a good segue.
Wow.
oh, there you go. But
Wow.
I mean, but is that? Yeah, I mean, I just wonder, like, tonally, how that's going to work. I mean, yeah, it's interesting.
I hope it's horrific and gory and everything I ever dreamed of.
Well, we kind of already have a little bit of a look, because there have been some pretty dope Marvel vs. Aliens variant covers that have they're coming out. I think this coming Wednesday, but they're already out online. Let's take a little look-see at those because they're pretty awesome. So I hope this is big enough on the screen for people to be able to really kind of see. I used Photoshop to make a mosaic of these. But looking down the list, we have Null, the Donny Cates creation Null battling an alien. We have Spidey versus an alien. We have Wolverine stabbing an alien through the neck as the acid blood just erodes his hand. Can alien acid eat through adamantium? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We got Cyclops and Jean Grey with a giant queen alien behind them. Kind of a tribute to the famous Phoenix Saga cover. We got Iron Man blasting one in the face. We got Miles Morales locked in battle. I think my favorite here is Shang-Chi doing like I don't even know what kind of ninja kick that is, right in the face of one of the aliens, knocking him back. Got Thor versus Alien, and then we have Venom head-to-head with an alien, and that's another thing that I would like to see in a comic book. Yeah. So,
Judah, which like verses are you most excited for?
Which alien versus?
Yeah, yep.
It's actually on this next page that Robo just threw up. It's the it is. Hold on, I gotta scroll down for a second. Excuse me, guys. Yeah, I actually really like this Guardians of the Galaxy versus the Queen alien. Just the way this picture's framed, and it makes me want to see that fight. I think Hulk. So going from top left to bottom right with what we got on the screen here. Null versus Alien, Null wins. Spidey versus Alien, Alien wins. Wolverine versus Alien, draw. Hulk versus Alien, definitely Hulk. Black Widow, not Black Widow. What's her face? Which
one are you looking at?
Black Cat. Cat versus Alien, Alien wins. Daredevil versus Alien, Aliens win. So what's Marvel? It called? Captain versus Alien. Captain versus Alien, I'm giving it to the Aliens. Guardians versus Alien, I'm giving it to the Guardians, even because they have Groot.
Yeah.
Panther
the
versus
Guardians
Alien. Yeah, I agree.
You
I
said
agree.
Captain. You
Panther
Captain,
versus Aliens.
Captain America. You give it to the aliens. You mean?
Yeah, Captain America.
Oh,
give it to
okay.
the
Because
aliens.
Captain Marvel's no way.
Yeah.
Captain
She
Marvel would win.
definitely.
Yeah.
She could obliterate. Black Panther versus the aliens. It depends on if his suit is alien acid resistant.
Yeah.
So that's a question that Marvel has to answer for us.
Yeah.
The Jean Grey and Cyclops versus the aliens. It depends on a couple factors. Can Jean Grey manipulate their minds?
What did you say about Thor? Did you say Thor would win?
Thor crushes the
Oh,
aliens for sure.
Really?
Yeah. Anybody
Oh, yeah.
that can nuke from orbit, if you could do that, it's done.
It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah, it's the only way to be sure.
Okay,
That's why I would
so
give it to
same
Iron
principle,
Man.
right?
What's that?
Right, it's the same principle, right? But screw, marry, avoid.
Oh yeah.
Screw Mary of Old.
So like,
I love how it goes from kill to avoid in the UK.
It's screw Mary apologize in Canada.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm terribly sorry.
Jean faints and Sykes dies, says Polly. I can totally see that happening. Oh, sorry, Judy, I interrupted you.
I mean, if
I don't even know.
bring the alien like properly into like the Marvel universe, is there going to be a point where the Brood are just like, should we just go home?
They might as well. They don't stand a chance to.
Yes.
No.
Are we needed now?
Well,
Yeah.
this. I get this argument from. Actually, I got this from when Judah and Michael go on their super alien conversations. But if we take the idea that what's the thing that they plant if they plant an egg in the thing and then it assimilates their DNA, then all that it has to do is plant an egg in the right one, like a Thor, and then it's game over.
Or a Hulk alien.
Yeah, Hulk.
Jesus.
If they can get
What
one
a
like
nightmare.
into his stomach and then it does the whole DNA thing, done so.
Yeah.
This
Like in
Fantastic
Predator.
Four. This Fantastic Four cover borrows from Fantastic Four #1. It's kind of like a tribute to that Fantastic Four #1.
Mm-hmm.
With I can't remember the name of the villain that was popping out of the ground. I think it was 10 cents. That's right.
Oh
It was
my
10
god,
cents.
that's so mind-boggling to me.
It is crazy. I'm not a big get every variant kind of guy, but I might get some of these because these really are like nerdy dream come true covers. This the one with Captain Marvel with the alien behind her. I mean, she might as well be Ripley. She's got the flight suit. She's basically Ripley as Captain Marvel.
Mhm.
It's
That's
pretty
right.
awesome.
And she's even got the fucking cat, which is I
Even
think
got
in the
the cat.
poster as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Dope.
I love the Daredevil cover actually. I think it's so sick. I would love to
It's
have that on my wall.
clever. It's very clever because it's like this is what Daredevil sees. He just hears these horrifying sounds and knows where they are.
Yeah, man. It's dope. I can't wait. Excited.
I'm looking for that. Okay, so that's a pretty quick one. We're gonna move on to something that may or may not take up some more discussion. So I was looking at this. I've been following this on Twitter and on Facebook. What in the actual fuck is up with this Snyder Cut?
It's always been around, guys.
What the
It's always been around. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's always
ready to
been
go.
But it's like
We can ship
Jared
it now.
Jared Leto's Joker's in it. Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke is in it. It's gonna be 4 hours. They're right now, like as we speak, they're shooting with Affleck, Ray Fisher, and Amber Heard. This is a new movie. Like this is not a cut.
No.
This is a new movie.
No.
And-
Listen, it just needed. It always was there, and you just had to polish it out a little bit. If you don't get that,
again,
you're
a fucking mediocre white man gets paid to fail once again.
I can't help but think. So
Get
what really the first thought I had was that this is like if there has to be a South Park episode about the Snyder Cut. If there's not a South Park episode, they're sitting on a gold mine. But I picture Zack Snyder being Randy Marsh, like, oh, we should.
The Lord episode where he gets too deep into it.
He gets too deep into it, and now it's like,
Lord.
I'm Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, Lord.
I'm
shit.
definitely gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm excited to see it. It's become a very funny pop cultural sideshow. With some really toxic shit. Like can't you just like Zack Snyder
Garbage.
movies and not be like insane and vicious? Like, is that a
Garbage.
possibility?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like Michael Bay.
The toxic fandom. It's just so, and every bit of the fan. Every fandom has toxic fandom in it. And I don't get how people cannot see that some are just a little worse than others. By the way, still fucking baffled about it. Zack Snyder put out a Biden 2020, and it was like, oh, well, that's gonna, because in that, how I don't know if this is reality, but when you look at social media, there seems to be, we talked about this, right? I don't know why, I don't fucking get it, but there seems to be a little bit of some correlation between the Snyder Cut and the right. I don't know yeah. And so that's why when he puts out the 2020, a lot of people were like, oh, and then that did not lose him any fans, but boy, let me tell you, they were out in force.
I bet. And the funniest part of this whole story is fucking Jared Leto coming back as the Joker. Because I guarantee you half of them hate that as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get what you fucking
I thought
wish
this was
for.
America. I can't make a Snyder Cut?
That's right. What was I going to say? Something really important. I said this to you guys in the chat. Zack Snyder, to me, I love Sucker Punch. I love like all those cheesy action films.
300 was
300.
cool too.
Yep. But like he is all style and no substance. He's very much like all about the visual and not so much about the important shit.
Which is an art in its own right.
Sure.
I mean, it is an art, but yeah,
that's
definitely
what makes me worried for this 70 million. I'm like, why didn't you give that 70 million to 7 different indie directors and make something cool like Taika did with Thor 3, where it's unique and like different flavor and fucking inject some life into DC, which it so desperately needs, instead of this more gritty Snyder muted black and white bullshit.
It's gonna be a spectacle.
It's
whether
so
it's
dark.
a good
Is
spectacle or a
this
bad
DC
spectacle
movie?
remains to be seen.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can tell how I feel about it, but I'm really fucking pissed off that this guy gets money to try again.
Why did you
But
why did you
also-
tell me you pre-ordered it? Like you said you spent $300 to pre-order it. Why would you do that? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So moving on to other screen adaptations, this is to kind of plug another episode. We just spoke to Cullen Bunn a little while ago, and the big screen adaptation of Cullen Bunn and Vanessa R. Del Rey's The Empty Man is hitting theaters this weekend. So this is what the write-up says. While not the ideal circumstances to launch a movie, the film has overcome many hurdles, from the pandemic to Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox. After a group of teens from a small Midwestern town begin to mysteriously disappear, the locals believe it is the work of an urban legend known as the Empty Man.
The comic is sick.
Is it good?
Yep.
I haven't read the comic, but I will read anything that Cullen Bunn is attached to in any way. So I'm definitely excited. I'll probably read the comic while I wait before this weekend so I can go see the movie.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see more of his stuff adapted because I love horror and he just does horror so well. But I feel the same about Alex too because I love sci-fi. So we'll see.
Dope.
Maybe my dreams will come true.
So dope. I'm gonna throw out some Empty Man covers here. Wow, this looks good.
Throw them up.
This looks good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm saying that trying to remember if you guys gave me a question to ask. Because I was like, wait, why are you acting surprised? Didn't you already read this book? Save image, view image, copy link. That's too far. I need my all set up. Anyways, yeah. Are you familiar with The Empty Man, Alex?
Yeah. I was on a panel with Cullen in Chicago a couple of years ago, and sort of read it as kind of prep. No, he's good. Like his Missouri accent's a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that where his accent's from?
I think like he's on Kansas City. Where's Kansas City?
Yeah.
So Kansas City is both in Kansas and Missouri. It's actually two cities that are attached to each other with a Missouri side and a Kansas side. So he's from either Kansas or Missouri, one of those two. I don't know. But
see, I'm from California, so like anything east of Arizona is like somewhere over there. So it's over there somewhere.
Wikipedia says Cullen grew up in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Now that makes more sense with his accent. Yeah.
He's so southern, and I love it. He's so like polite. It's so nice.
He's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of great.
He was like I have to say, like I was on a Valiant panel, right? It's a couple of years ago, before Incursion came out and stuff, and it was with him. It was with Cullen, Tim Seeley, and Teeny Howard, and like nobody wanted to hear from me at all. Obviously, like I'd never done any Valiant work, and like my profile wasn't.
Arcadia was out, right?
Yeah, but like that was like it was a well received book, but like it didn't blow up. You know what I mean? It does well, whatever. But like no one was on that. No one was going to that panel to see me. But the thing I remember was, and this is Cullen, Tim, and Teeny were all handing me the mic because everyone was kind of asking them questions, and I'm just like sat on the corner, just perched on the corner. Nobody wanted to ask me, and they all made a point of like giving me some of their time. And that's how do you know what I mean? Like that's how you're not kind of dealing with like people are gonna kind of big shot you. You know what I mean? Like they were really generous people, really nice people.
That's awesome.
Hey, speaking of questions for Alex, the chat is going off. Pop Culture Philosophers says, "Hey, it's Alex. What's up?"
Is that Robbie?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Pop Culture Philosophers. We'll wait and find out. See if they come back. They did ask. Alex mentioned being part of a writers group, had a lot of big names. Who again is involved in that group? And they also want to know which part of the UK you're from.
Oh, I think that's Robbie Billups. Hi, Robbie.
Hey. Yep, it's Robbie.
Yeah, there you go. How you doing, man? All right. So yeah, the writers studio is. He knows this. I don't know why he's asking. It's
someone
Ram
else. He's put some. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ram V, who is tearing it up on Justice League Dark and Catwoman. He's got a graphic novel dropping next week called Blue and Green that is extraordinary. I mean, genuinely extraordinary. I mean, like boundary shifting. Ryan O'Sullivan, who brought, Fearscape came out through Vault, I think 2018, and he would kill me if I called it a sequel, but the follow-up, a Dark Interlude, I think drops next month, and it's every bit as kind of cynical and depraved and kind of formally inventive as the last one, and we also have Dan Waters, who just finished up Lucifer, is currently working on, I think, Superman, Wonder Woman, Future State.
Excited about that.
Oh yeah, and we talked it all out over the phone. Like I know what he's doing. He's wrecking shop on that, man. And then he's got coming up. He's got a Vault book called. Check this out for a kind of crunchy pitch, right? He's got a book coming out called The Picture of Everything Else, and. Like, how's this for like an instant? Ooh, right? You guys are familiar with The Picture of Dorian Gray,
mm-hmm.
right? So the pitch for this book, it's far more complicated than this, but just as a kind of like Hollywood like top line elevator thing. What if the guy who painted that painted landscapes?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Sold,
right?
Yeah.
I'll take 12.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So yeah. And we also have we as a member, I think it's like whether it depends which day of the week like he decides he is, but Caspar Wingard is definitely one of us. He's the phenomenal artist of Limbo, did a bunch of Dr. Aphra stuff.
Is he the friendliest ghost?
No, actually, like he's a really grumpy guy.
Oh shit!
He's a beautiful man. He's very handsome. But yeah, he's a really grumpy dad.
Good to know. Good to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about
that's us. And what was the other part of the
what
question?
part of the UK are you from?
Oh, whereabouts in the UK? Yeah.
I'm in Lancashire.
Lancashire.
Which is sort of it's the county that it contains Liverpool and sort of is adjacent to Manchester. So we're in the north. I'm about sort of 250 miles north of London.
Nice.
Cool.
We got a question
Yeah,
a while back from
time.
Ace. When writing, do you find yourself taking inspiration from the last thing you've written, or trying to go in a complete opposite direction?
That's a really interesting question. I would say that the process of kind of working through the process of working up on one project, right, invariably gives you like a lot of offcuts, and some of that is fat and some of that is flesh, and passing the sort of fat from the flesh. Sorry, I know that's a value laden statement. I'll try and walk that back. Fat's very useful, but no, you know what I mean. Some of it's kind of peripheral, and some of it is less so. And being able to kind of ascertain which is very useful. But I would certainly say that it's not that you're kind of assembling new projects from kind of like the rejected dull parts of the old, but they can certainly, because you're thinking in a certain way, right? You're thinking in a very kind of structural, very procedural way, and sometimes it can take you down these really kind of interesting tangents that you can't incorporate into like a 5-issue mini or an 8-issue mini, and you just end up kind of repurposing it and ends up becoming its own thing. I'm in a weird position at the moment where because not to be defined, but like the Giga pre-orders have been pretty robust, right? And so I've been kind of approached by a couple people to pitch, and certainly I'm not one of these people who has like an exhaustive kind of I don't have like notebook after notebook after notebook of just ideas that I've been sitting on for years. I'm very utilitarian. I tend to use them at the time. But certainly, a lot of the kind of thought process that went into this has already kind of taken me down different avenues. Yeah, absolutely. That's I've never been asked that question before, but yeah, absolutely. I think it's not necessarily that the last project gives rise to a new project, but I definitely think that the sort of the way, how can I put it, the mode of cognition that you kind of employ to kind of get into that headspace will naturally give rise to other things, and you see them sort of going off in those different directions, and sometimes they turn into completely new projects.
Good question. Good answer. This is interesting.
Michael wants to know what title you'd love to work on, your dream title.
Madrox.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah, I got a Madrox pitch in my back pocket that is just insane. And
you may have mentioned something about the first time we talked to you, and it's a cool.
Yeah.
So
your football team is ?
Yeah.
Do you have a football team?
West Ham.
There you go. I don't know if that's good or bad. Chat, tell me.
It's not Liverpool, so it's got to be bad according to Michael.
Isn't West Ham what they call bacon in the UK?
It's bacon on the west side so it might be actually closer to our bacon.
Yeah, it's ham. It's ham, but it's real.
So Alex, not to make this combative in any way, but one of the frequent running not jokes but realities that we revisit frequently on this show is that American bacon is a very specific kind of food, and we find it a little bit offensive when people refer to that other stuff as bacon as well.
You mean the real bacon? Is that what you're talking about?
What? No. He means like ham. I don't know if that was confusing or not. Ham. Yeah, just breakfast ham.
Have you ever had? I think you guys call it streaky bacon or burnt bacon. Have you ever had?
It's the shitty part of bacon. That's why we have the proper part of bacon that looks like ham.
No, we like ham
filled
too.
with fat.
We like ham too. That's good. By the way,
we finally kind of reached the part of the conversation that I feel like we can really kind of get to grips with this, because this is what I've been waiting for all night. Because no, genuinely, right? Like my buddy Dennis Camp, right, made me like a bacon sandwich when I was staying with him, and like this was not like in the boonies, man. This is in Brooklyn, and he got out this bacon, and there were like these like tiny slivers of meat.
Yeah, in between the fat.
Like, yeah, right. Like it was mainly fat, right?
Yeah.
And like that
sounds like we're talking about bacon.
Yeah, but no.
That's right.
In fact, no.
Wait, what kind of sandwich?
Oh,
wait, hold on,
Get
wait.
it,
I
get
just
it.
I just want to know what kind of sandwich he called it. Oh.
Oh, I love that this is getting proven today. See, Michael agrees with me. It's called round cut bacon. All you Americans, go and Google round cut bacon, because that's how you get actual bacon meat. Doesn't taste like
if Alex comes back and says that he prefers American bacon, then Michael will die.
Okay. Are you ready to meet bacon? This is bacon.
Yeah,
all right?
I'm ready to meet it.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
I like that pun, by the way.
It sounds like he's opening a package of ham. What is that?
That's bacon.
That's bacon.
Oh yeah, that's bacon.
That's bacon.
Right. But
that's bacon.
There's flesh in that. Like that's
Okay,
bacon.
okay,
right?
hold on, time out. This is fucking awesome. This is great, and I can tell by Ree's face that this is not going the way that everybody thought it was. That's fucking bacon. Now, there are hold on. And I'll be brief. There are different, like, there's shitty brands of bacon. There's bacon I open up and I'm like, there's no meat in this. But that's fucking bacon, and when you put that in a pan and you fry it and it gets crispy and you put it in a sandwich and you're eating a bacon sandwich, that's fucking delicious. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Paknadel from the United Kingdom just showed up what bacon was. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. And it sure as shit wasn't a fucking ham steak.
I mean, you're all wrong. You're all wrong.
God, what a glorious, momentous day.
That was so good. That was so good. By the way, I just want to let everybody know that every time...
Was that like meat show and tell?
Yeah.
Meat show and tell. We showed each other... Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah. I mean... in the only way that YouTube will let us, so I mean that's good. That's second best. That's good.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, NBs, that is Alex Paknadel for the show. I'm trying to read faces here. Was that a good place to stop? Were you good? I feel like there was a level of disappointment.
You have comic Twitter tweets, but.
Oh my God, you're right. I missed it because I had them in a separate folder. That way they could all come up at one time. Do you want to go over that? That was a little premature.
Yeah,
it's never
sure.
happened. It's never happened to me before.
As long as you need, it's up to you.
That's a good way to end it.
Let's throw them up and then we'll wrap this up. But some of these are fun.
Okay, real quick.
So thinking about Harley's sandwich that was ruthlessly murdered. I love that scene so much.
I haven't seen Michael.
So the first one.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
The first one we have here is Ron Mars, and this is what he said. He said, I didn't watch any of the debate, but here's my guess. Number one, Trump lied about almost everything. And number two, Trump stopped short of eating live kittens on stage in an orgy of rage.
He did that.
It was a draw. You might as well start calling him Ron Nostradamus Mars, because that is a very accurate prediction of what happened in the debate. Definitely on point. That's pretty much what happened. We got Tara Strong. You might know her. She voiced the Powerpuff Girls, and she's done a lot of really awesome voice work. She's actually one of my favorite celebrities. But she said very positive. She said, it was so nice to see civility, facts, empathy, and hope on that stage. Hashtag Biden won. Hashtag debates. When I see the word civility, facts, empathy, and hope, I can see where maybe half of the debate might have had that. Mark Ruffalo, the Bruce Banner and Incredible Hulk actor, said, Joe Biden spoke the truth with grace and poise and stood his ground against every one of Trump's lies. Hashtag Biden won. Hashtag debates. I would agree. Joe Hill. Oh, man, I love Joe Hill. Let me just gush for a second. I love you, Joe Hill. Okay. Joe Hill, I suspect the Fox folks will call this debate a return to form for Trump and declare him the victor. But Biden counterpunched, laughed his great laugh, and demonstrated dignity and understanding of policy. Probably more like a draw, which is a loss for Trump, who is running out of time. And then we have the amazing Jen Bartle. I'm sorry, but if Twitter is capable of fact-checking the things that come out of his mouth in a matter of seconds during these debates, there's no excuse for official networks to not have a ticker-style fact checks happening live while they're on the air.
That's what I fucking hate about watching these debates is like you could shove receipts in his face in that moment. Like when he's saying, I don't know who QAnon is, even though he's retweeted them about 65 times. You like, why is no one opening up Twitter and being like, why are you retweeting them then? Like, why is no one putting that information to him?
The reason why is not a good reason. The only reason why is because before the debates, both camps send representatives and they negotiate the terms of the debate. And that's probably one of the things that...
But Trump doesn't adhere to the terms of the debate. That's the thing. He doesn't understand that he has a response and then someone else has a response and that's it. He doesn't get to respond to the person's response. Yeah. And that's what he constantly... Like, if you look at the statistics of all of these debates, he has spoken 3 minutes more than Biden in each one. How is that possible? That's not fair.
Anyway. Because he might be a lying sack of shit. That's all. That's definitely a possibility. Okay. So Tom Brevoort,
you're beginning to lose faith in the Trump administration.
I think I'm.
I don't think I was ever there.
I'm not sure who I'm going to vote for just yet, but I'm starting to not like President. No, just kidding. Sorry.
Tom Brevoort watched the debate and call me crazy, but I think that both sides are going to claim that their guy won. Very astute, Tom. I would say that's most likely accurate.
Yeah. I read these before we go, and then I'll go into we'll close this up. But sometimes statements like that annoy the shit out of me because they're like, there's just like this kind of platitudinal kind of like statement of like, yeah, well, no shit. That doesn't mean that one side's not wrong though. Like, you know what I mean? But nothing against Tom Brevoort. Maybe he'll come on the show and apologize.
Alex, does this bother you at all? What's going on in the States at the moment? Do you pay any attention to it? Does it make you feel sad?
Oh, dude, I mean, it keeps me awake. I mean, it's well, look, I mean, it's and it's a funny thing because it you know, I remember there was a thing like in the 2000s, and I know the stakes were because it kind of felt certainly abroad like that was kind of that Bush was kind of as bad as it was going to get. I remember election night 2000, like it felt like a catastrophe, Yeah. And with the Florida recount and that being as dodgy as it was and stuff. But I remember like there was this thing like it was in the general, the 2004 general election. And the Guardian, which is like almost, I would say it's you guys probably read it, like it's kind of like the liberal paper of record, right? And but they ran this campaign at the time, I remember, and it was just after Afghanistan and Iraq had kind of kicked off and everything. And I know present company kind of accepted and everything. You guys have a very kind of, you'll have a much more kind of intimate relationship with that than I will. But they ran this campaign that in hindsight is just insane, which was, they were getting kind of Brits to kind of write to like Americans in swing states and just kind of say like, please, like vote for the other guy, Kerry, I think at the time or whatever.
Gore.
But,
or was it Kerry?
2000.
Was it Kerry in 2004?
Oh, 2004 is Kerry.
Gore.
Yeah. So it was like, please vote for John Kerry. And, of course, and understandably, the reaction was like, well, I'm definitely going to vote for Bush now because how dare you kind of, But here's the thing. And I think it's sometimes weird to, don't get me wrong. And like, again, I know this is a massively kind of value-laden statement, but like if you say this to like a New Yorker or like, an Angelino or someone from Seattle, like anyone, from like, coastal cities, they will understand it. But they'll accept it. But there is this thing that like, whoever gets to be the leader, they're called the leader of the free world for a reason. Like, in a very real sense, like we're all getting a new president.
Yes.
And so it is of global concern.
Yep.
And so, I think that certainly the outcome of this election, and, of course I have a preferred candidate, but it will very much, there's a disgusting strain of populism that's currently kind of, overwhelming Europe at the moment and taking root in really strange ways and is giving rise to Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and just
real
all
right-wing leaders.
all
too.
the goblins of prejudice and bigotry and what have you. And depending on who the victor is, in just over a week, we will find out whether that progress is halted or is probably unstoppable.
It's all on the line.
Yeah, man. Like it's rough.
Well said. Well said.
Man.
I mean,
Make elections boring again.
that's right.
Yes,
If an Australian assassinates the president of the United States, that's legal, right? Like, I'm allowed to do that, I'm pretty sure.
Ooh.
Did you hear something? I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
So I want to close this off on a positive note because we said
Mail call.
we said some we usually do that at the beginning next week. By the way, next week everyone has to get costumes. Next week's show's in costume, at least a mask.
I'm all over it.
But
The Halloween special.
to close this off on a positive note, Michael Malone says, "Fuck, now my mom agrees with Alex. Everyone's against me." Just wanted to make sure. And then up above, he says, "This series sucks." So I'm glad we settled.
I got you back, Michael.
I'm glad that we settled the international bacon debate. This is good, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being here, giving us some of your time. Don't forget to check out Giga.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. I know I talk too much. But having a good time.
No.
Thank you.
This is a talk show. We love it. For everybody out there, check out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I know sometimes people forget to like when they're in the chat. Please don't forget to like. Check out our Discord. I'm gonna put the link inside the description here. We're doing big things in it. We just had a watch party a couple days ago. That was a lot of fun. I just uploaded a bunch of new emojis, so Discord is starting to get a little hopping. And then also don't forget to check out Respawn IFLC, all one word, on Twitch. Follow. And are you still playing Bloodlines?
Yeah, I'm still playing Bloodlines, and I've only just made it to like the second map, so there's like all these hotties that I've yet to meet. So if you hop on now, it's a really good time to figure out which character you want to bone.
Awesome.
Ree's my favorite Twitch streamer, by the way.
Oh,
That's
that's a very low bar to step over, but thank you so much.
Mine too. I'm just kidding. She's awesome, and I do watch her. All right, so take it easy. Don't forget to wash your hands. Don't forget to vote. Just go fucking vote. I
literally like I've got my hands stink of bacon now.
Bacon.
It's really important.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching IFLC. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and be free. Follow our links and watch our show because you want to and not because of the threats. Thank you for watching Judah, Robo, and Ree. We talk about comics, movies, and TV. Sometimes we have notable guests and sometimes it's just us, but we're also cool.